rather than scale yourself out of your business, have you considered actually scaling yourself into your business? Today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Sharran Srivatsaa. He is the president of the Real Brokerage, which is seeing some amazing growth right now. And one of the really interesting things that he talked about is how they're really flipping the script. And he wants to be the one, or he and some of the leadership want to be the ones really working with the agents, showing up in unexpected places, is what he said. And so instead of trying to find other people who could do those things for him, they instead are looking for other people who could do other things for him and free him up to do more of this and to continue to this. And that is his idea for scaling it. He also had some fascinating personal stories and some really interesting information about the growth of Real and some of the things they're working on right now. So enjoy the podcast. Sharran, welcome to the RealTrending podcast.
Tracey, thank you so much for having me. I think a lot of people don't realize how much effort this stuff takes of actually getting together, building a great episode, putting it out there. And you don't have to do this, but you're doing this to make sure that you can serve the industry well. And there's a lot of both pre-production and post-production that goes into this. So I want to thank you for not just having me, but for committing to doing this body of work that is helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I love doing it. We developed it, gosh, it's been probably like 6 years ago now.
Amazing.
Maybe even longer. I don't even remember. But it's a lot of fun. I really like digging into the different company models and the different people in the industry. So thanks for being on.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah, so you guys, Real has had a wild ride. You went from number 11 to number 6 in transaction sides in the RealTrends Verified brokerage rankings. You went from number 14 to number 10 in sales volume. I can't remember what you were by independent. I want to say it was 4 or 5, but I'm not positive.
Sounds right.
I have to look that up. And you just had an earnings call where you say you have 18,000 agents now. So congratulations. That's huge growth. I want to talk to you strategically about that growth because I'm hearing a lot of chatter about the company too, in the industry, and talk to me a little bit about your strategic growth plan and how it's playing out for you.
Yes, I think you nailed the key intro to that, which was you're hearing the chatter, and that is actually a part of the strategy. A lot of people don't realize that the chatter is the strategy. The street talk is the strategy. And the way you get that is the big question. How do you get the street talk? How do you get goodwill deployed into the marketplace? And there was a big decision that we made about a year and a half ago when we really saw the growth curve change, and that was to give everything away. The power of generosity is really powerful in our industry because most of the time, I actually used to run an independent brokerage many years ago. We grew it from 1 office and 22 agents to 20 plus offices, 700 agents. We sold the business to Douglas Elliman. And I was in the traditional brokerage model world. And the thing that we did was whatever we would do, call it a training, call it a piece of marketing, call it an idea, call it a strategy, we would keep it internal. In fact, it was not only internal, Tracey, it was siloed even by offices. If a Beverly Hills office where we had one, if they had the idea, someone else 20 miles away in Newport Beach would not have that idea. And so I personally realized that if I could democratize this knowledge and show up with a giving hand of giving everything away, not trying to undertone with the sell of recruiting or attraction, not trying to undertone with the sell of coaching, what are the best ideas that we can have and can we give every single thing away? So in the last 14 weeks, I've probably done close to 250 live Zooms of giving things away, maybe in presentations, et cetera. So that generosity in a lot of ways is deploying goodwill into the marketplace, which is why you're hearing the chatter, because I'm probably on a lot of podcasts, on a lot of stages, just giving everything away. And what that does is it gives people a window into you. It gives people a window into the culture. It gives people a window into how you think and feel. And there cannot be a better introduction to that because it's a lot easier instead of saying, hey, message me directly to talk about something in private. I'm like, no, I'll tell you everything in public. And so now folks have a really good sense of who you are and what you stand for. And I think that showing up and giving everything away, number 1, has been a great strategy. And I'll give you number 2. And we made this as both my partners and I, we made this as a very intentional thing. And we said, it is our job to show up in places where people feel like they don't deserve us. And a lot of times a small group will tell me, hey, we have a small mastermind group. It's 7 people. Would you be open to doing like a 15-minute call? Now, in the traditional world, I'd be like, I don't think that has the impact for me, but we internally call it the 5-but rule. If there's 5 butts in a room, I'm going to show up in the room to show up and add value, et cetera. So we show up in a lot of rooms where we say, hey, I'm probably unexpected to be in this room. What can I do to do a better job of showing up and adding value? Because there's 2 amazing things that happen, right? One, that group of people that you show up for are so gracious and so grateful and so thankful that you're there. But the second, what they don't realize is that now I get a chance to impact a smaller group in a much more meaningful way, which is really powerful. So number 1 is kind of operating from this deploying goodwill generosity component. Number 2 is showing up in rooms that they're not expected in. But here's the third one. And people will say this a lot, which is, how do you stay really true to your business model? And I'll give you a very simple example. And a lot of your listeners who are independent broker owner and team operators will appreciate this. When we ran our independent, we had 700 plus agents. And I would tell you, Tracey, we probably had 650 different economic and commission plans because I had it all in my head with special deals and things like that. And it's okay. But at Real, given our business model is very simple, every single person is on the same exact model. And that's good and interesting at the same time, but staying true to that, because it's very easy for folks to say, well, hey, I am a big producer, I run a big team, I have a big brokerage, what is the special deal you can give me? And the special deal is this: everybody's on the same deal, everybody's on the same plan. And I think that in a lot of ways has created this feeling of belonging and warmth that is super cool for us, where everyone knows exactly what they do to hit their rewards. Everyone knows exactly what to do to hit their recognition, and everyone's on the same exact plan. It's not like, oh, is Tracey gotten a better deal than Sharran did? And those 3 things of showing up and being extremely generous, showing up in rooms that we're not expected, and then staying super true to our business model and saying, oh, someone wants to check in. If we can't do that, that's okay. And staying true to our business model, those 3 things has given us this immense singularity of focus. That is what's propelled all this growth.
So that's interesting, because I did hear, that agents, I've heard from agents who were really surprised that you came to see them or you showed up for them, that you specifically is who they mentioned. So how do you scale that though? Like if you're, you have 18,000 agents right now, how, even if like a fourth of them wanted you to be there, I mean, you have a leadership team too, but how do you scale that moving forward as you continue to grow?
Yeah, super good question. I think the answer is not how do you scale me? The answer is how do you not scale me, right? The not scaling of me is the answer. So just take me in this case. What the standard answer to that would be, hey, how can we get more people so that Sharran doesn't have to go to these events? How can we get more people so Sharran doesn't have to be more calls? The answer is actually the opposite. How can we get more people or team or resources so that Sharran can do more of these calls? And so what we're building now is a bigger support system for kind of Tamir and me, so that they can do all the things that I shouldn't have to do. So now I get a chance to only do the things that what we call in your zone of genius. Where can I show up and have this impact? Now, what's really interesting about this, Tracey, is that we live in a pretty cool modern world of kind of virtual connection. And I get a chance to do something very cool. I'll give you a crazy example. Yesterday, we did our annual event, which is our virtual summit. Well, how we actually rolled that out was it was a Zoom-ish annual event, and a lot of people around North America decided that they were going to do these viewing parties, and so we had 100 plus agents set up these 100 plus viewing parties in big movie theaters around North America. So yesterday we had close to 15,000 agents on a 4-hour Zoom with me. Now that's cool that I was able to touch 15,000 people, but they got 2 things. They got community in this live event in San Antonio where there was a movie theater, but at the same time, they got access to this knowledge that everyone was sharing towards. So I think we are in a world where we have to combine and hybrid those 2 things. The power of social media is also there. Like we've gotten a chance to have a small little audience that I've built over the last 10 plus years, which has been good. I probably could reach half the total addressable US and Canadian markets, but I spend a lot of my time in my DMs because people are like, hey, Sharran, how do I do this? Hey, Sharran, what's the FSBO script? That allows me to do that so that I don't have to do the other non-revenue generating things. So how we scale me is how to not scale me. How we scale me is to scale the team so that I can do more of being belly to belly, face to face.
So that is so interesting because I mean, I want to make sure the audience really heard that, because that is really flipping the normal script. The normal script is, how can I get out of these things and get other people taking these things over? Instead, you're taking two of the executive team members and saying, how can I clear their schedules so they could do more of this one-on-one, which is exactly what people want. In any company, they want FaceTime with the executives. They, great, you got a new trainer to get me with, but I want to see you. So that is a really interesting concept. I haven't really heard that before. There might be other people doing it, but I have not really heard that of a company this size.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you why. And there's a fascinating reason for this. And the reason is, and I don't think a lot of people are doing that, maybe because the oil tanker is too big and they can't turn the ship around. Maybe because it was not designed that way. The thing that we have that we're fortunate about is that we get a chance to design the ecosystem the way we want it. It's not like I didn't walk into a 100,000 agent company. When I walked in, we were a small business and we grew to 18,000 from when I walked in. So we were able to design it the way we wanted. And I'll tell you what, the one thing that I've seen, Tracey, that has been, that makes me both sad and a sense of responsibility. And that is most, not all, most broker owner leaders are deeply disconnected from what the agent is doing on a day-to-day basis. And I was on a $11.5 million listing appointment this morning. Now, I don't actively sell real estate. However, me going on an appointment with one of our agents changes that agent's life forever. And because now that agent who's never actually gotten an $11.5 million listing in her life now gets one. And I'm not even, there's no economics to me. It's like we're here in support of them. But what people don't realize is that now I know the 31 questions that client asked us in that appointment. So the trainings that I build, I get to say, I was in an appointment yesterday, and here's the question that a client's asking right now in the post-NAR world that most other executives don't have that experience. I'm not saying, yes, they maybe 30 years ago they sold real estate, but like it is completely different in the last 4 months on the questions that we're getting asked. So the more we can spend time in the craft of the business, the better, because I know you believe this, a skilled agent will outperform an unskilled agent like 10 to 1. And so this whole, whatever we talk about NAR, et cetera, the most fascinating thing is COVID actually was a momentum-based market. Before you could even do something, the deal was closed. When COVID kind of subsided and we went into the market that we're in, we are now in a deeply skills-based market. And people have forgotten the craft of real estate. Now, if I show up and I can't say, hey, here's what I do on social media to generate more leads. Here's how I write emails to generate more appointments. Here's what I would say to a client to reduce their sales resistance. If I can't do that and I turn it over to a third-party trainer, that they won't even show up for those Zooms. And so I think there's a deep responsibility for us to both be connected to what's happening with the consumer and kind of translate that back to the agent from a skill perspective.
So growing the company from so small to where it is today, what didn't work? What did you do that you were really excited about and then just fell flat, didn't work?
Yeah, we tried the whole lead generation thing, and that didn't quite work for us. So it's very easy to say, hey, we're going to run some ads and generate some leads, and then based on those leads, we're going to get people to call a little bit. And we tried small budgets of those. But Tracey, what we realized was it didn't do those three things for us. It didn't allow us to deploy generosity. It didn't allow us to be in rooms where we were not expected. And it didn't allow us to be in tune with our business model. So the person that was opting into a lead had no rapport with had no context with any of those things. And so they just didn't quite work for us. Now, I will tell you where that works. It works very well one level removed from us on teams. So when a team brings somebody in, they're like, hey, can I show you a way to make $100,000 this year? So now their antenna is up. And so they can actually deliver on that promise. For us, we were too far removed from that. And so that the cold lead generation was not the right fit for us culturally.
Yeah, lead generation is tough. I mean, I interviewed Teamerage at the gathering on stage, and we were talking about how he has organized it. And I mean, he's got those people calling like 200 people a day or something. I mean, it was crazy, but they're all bought in. Like they're bought into this process, and there's accountability and a system. But it is a really tough thing to master. He's mastered it, but it's tough.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think lead generation from a consumer perspective is a little different than lead generation from an agent perspective. And I don't love to use the word recruiting. I think language is important. I think about, instead of recruiting and retention, I think about attraction and connection, because if people are connected to you, they're not going anywhere. But the interesting part about recruiting, and I'm very happy to share this, which is no agent woke up in the morning and said, "Oh, I'm so glad Sharran called me today." Zero. That never happened. Right. And so in a lot of ways, we are interrupting their days. So we actually have a code of conduct internally that you can't cold solicit. So even though we have a revenue sharing model for our agents who kind of support and partner with our growth, they can't send out cold emails. They can't send out cold calls. They can't run cold ads, because we've realized when you do that, it dramatically tarnishes the approachability of our brand. So next time, if I were like, "Hi, Tracey, I'm at Real," and you're like, "Whoop, Real, I don't want to talk to you," right? But we've removed that, because now, and I've had to, it's a code of conduct violation. It's an ICA violation. So when they do that, they can be terminated, and agents kind of follow that. And our industry in a lot of ways has this reputation of aggressive recruiting, especially when times are slow or when new firm comes to market. You have this big push on recruiting. But attraction is completely different, because when you show up with generosity and you show up in rooms that you're not in, you get the inbound calls. And those inbounds are way warmer and more culturally aligned. So we may grow a little slower, but we'll grow with much more aligned agents.
Yeah, and to be clear, this broker was not soliciting agents. He was following up on leads through Zillow and Realtor.com.
Yeah.
And he purchases so many that they easily could call 200 a day. So
yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. But that's interesting about the code of conduct and everything as well. I would think that a lot of agents, that they would be relieved by that. Like, it takes some pressure off of them. As well. So what are you hearing out there?
Well, it's the hardest part for folks is when they come on board, their agents are used to a very entrepreneurial nature, and they don't want to be told what to do, which is what I love most about them. They're true entrepreneurs. But once if you ever get any pushback, they're like, "Wait, you're telling me that I can't or can do something?" So we have the code of conduct built in such a way that it's very practical. So we say, "Hey, if Tracey and Sharran have a team and we are growing our team in Orlando, we should be able to do whatever we want with our team." That makes total sense. But if Tracey and Sharran want to help grow and attract a Real and generate revenue share around it, then there are some key practices that are in place that we want to make sure that allows for good reputation, so the agents don't give you the cold shoulder and creates a tough reputation in the marketplace. So we separate those out. So once an agent realizes that the code of conduct as actually binds them together and attracts more culturally aligned people, they turn into it very quickly. And those that don't, they realize it's not a good fit for them. But the one thing that I talk about with big teams and brokerages coming on board is, "Hey, let me go through this code of conduct with you." And most of the time when you see their eyes light up and they smile, you know that you're talking to a very culturally aligned group.
So I want to talk about the settlements and all of the changes that are upcoming. What are you hearing out there from your agents? Is there a lot of confusion? Are they clear on it? Are they concerned about it? And then next, how are you training them through it?
Yeah, great question. So when the original settlement came out many Fridays ago, I spent the weekend reading the 108-page settlement agreement. I've talked to several brokers and owners, and I'm kind of saddened that many of them have not read this, which is actually the playbook of the new world, and you kind of have to read it. It's not easy to read, by the way. I actually had to have counsel's help to go through it. But as soon as I read it, the Monday after, which is 2 days after, I actually did a live webcast. We had like 25,000 people on it live, breaking down exactly what I learned from the settlement agreement overall. Now, here's what we believe from our understanding of it, and given that we've already gone through our economic settlement of this, we are in acceptance here. The main thing that there's a lot of fear around the fact that it's going to change real estate forever. And I am of the belief that it is not. This is the destination is the same. The route that we get there is a little different. And because the route that we get there is a little different, it's a little new for agents. And because that route involves understanding compensation, it's a little scarier for agents. So if you wrap all of this together, this is a training opportunity. This is not a freak out opportunity. But the hardest part for a lot of folks right now is that they, especially real estate professionals that have been in the industry a while, they have to stop and retrain themselves. And honestly, Tracey, that's very hard to do. And so that's number one. So I've been explaining this idea of, hey, you are just one little training away to understand the new route that you're going to take to get to the same exact destination. So that's number one. Number two is, as we're recording this, the full implementation of how it's going to happen on a state-by-state basis is not actually out yet. So I have seen forms in the state of New Mexico that I'm shocked that there is a form like that. I've seen forms in the state of California that are very strange. And so I think people are figuring it out and they're trying. But by August 17th, we're going to have good implementation on what this looks like. And I tell all our agents, as soon as we have good implementation, the responsibility is on us. It's on me, Sharran, to help train you on how to use these forms and these new practices. So when all of this, the chatter, the third question you asked was, how are we kind of talking about this? When this chatter came up about a year ago, I was still going on big buyer consults with our agents. So I started doing these 2-day buyer mastery days, literally breaking down everything that you need to know in the kind of the NAR world. And then I've been in multiple parts of the country doing this 2 days and 1-day events. And it got to the point after we settled when everyone was like, wait a minute, can you come to Minnesota? Can you come to Iowa? And I'm like, like you said, I can't be everywhere at the same time. So yesterday we did this, what we call Real, which is Buyer Mastery Live. And we opened it up to all brokerages and the entire industry as a gift. And we did it for free. And the main idea was, let me take our private kind of playbook that we have built, that is both a set of materials, processes, scripting, workflows, and a technology product associated with it to make this buyer consultation process pretty robust. And I taught that for 4 straight hours yesterday to 15,000 people. So our goal is to continuously keep giving these materials back. We also built a training portal on the back end where agents can go in and say, all right, how do I explain this part of the compensation agreement? How do I explain that part of the contract? So we've gotten a chance to do some tactical training around it so that we know that a high D agent who is driven is not going to sit through a 45-minute training. I will tell you they're not. Even though they say they will, they won't, right? They want something short and simple that they can memorize, internalize, and actually deliver, and they learn from doing. So we've been doing more of that where if Sharran, I'm not super scripted and super confident about this, they're not going to listen to anybody else, and then they're going to go listen to other sources that are not actually as good. So we've taken full responsibility to be a training first company on this one. And every training that we're doing, Tracey, we're just opening it up to the industry.
So you mentioned something before you said the portal, you mentioned another tech product related to it. What is that? Explain that to me a little bit more.
Yeah. So when a agent meets with Tracey, the potential buyer, we don't know how much time the agent has to work with them. And we also know that they need to have a contract signed before they actually start the home showing process. So we also know that agents are of varying skills. And some are going to do an amazing job explaining it. Some are going to over-index on not explaining it. Some are just going to use their relationship and charisma. So we've created a simple technology product right on our app. So all our agents are on our app. We have 100% adoption of our app, and I'll tell you why. And you can just click a button that is the new buyer broker agreement and email. I put in Tracey Velt, I put your email address, I hit send, and you get an access to a private portal. The private portal, what it does is I go through and explain key parts of the buying process. So it's a secondary education associated with it. And it's a one-stop signing of the agreement itself. And once that's done, it actually flips to the agent and the agent tells you what the next steps are, all built into the software.
Is it a video that they go to?
Think of it as a simple portal, which is an LMS of sorts. So they log in, they can see all the videos explaining various things, and then they can sign the contract. And then they have next steps on what is happening with an agent on home tours, financing, etc. But all of that is done in one single portal. That way, an agent gets to send one link. They can still review the documents and review other education around it. And when they sign it, all of it is kind of maintained in one place.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Now, you said you'd tell me why you have 100% adoption.
Yeah. So we realized that um, when you look at firms across the board and they've put a lot of money and investment into technology, and I ask for adoption rates, they're like, oh, on a good day, we have about 30% adoption. And I'm like, well, is it 30% 30-day logins? What exactly is it? So we built, and the reason for that is most firms, and it's not good or bad, we made a different choice. Most firms will build agent tools first. Hey, click here to get access to your intranet, click here to get access to your marketing, click here to do all the front-facing stuff. We flipped it because we realized that most agents and teams manage their front end in their own way. They want to do their marketing. They want to have their IDX sites. They want to have their software. They want to have their CRM. But we are the brokerage as a service layer. So our core role is to ensure that a transaction gets done as smooth as possible. So we built the transaction layer first. And the interesting part about our transaction layer is that you can run your entire business from the app. So almost think about it as any transaction tool that on steroids that is built for our company, everything in the app. And it has broker support built into the app. So if you upload a contract, brokers chat right in so you don't get 15 emails otherwise. And you can't get paid unless you go through our system. So because of that, every single agent closing a deal is live working in our system. So all compliance happens in our system, all the payments happen in our system, and all their dashboards, may it be their capping, their stock, their revenue share, their network, et cetera, is all on their app. So we have tried to build our app in such a way that it is hey, how do you open this every single day? And that's what's generated 100% adoption for us.
Okay, that's interesting. So I probably have time for 2 more questions. So I'm going to this is one that I try to ask as many leaders as possible. So, most entrepreneurs kind of have these aha moments. They have a lot of them. But what is the most impactful aha moment you've had? It could be personal. It doesn't necessarily be professional.
I'll be a little vulnerable and tell a short personal story, because it's been through many years of therapy. So which is very positive, by the way. So my parents sold everything that they had to give me a better life, to send me to the U.S. And when I landed in Chicago, this was the days where you had no cell phones, et cetera. So I landed in Chicago, and somebody was supposed to come pick me up. Well, this person never showed. So I was sleeping in the airport waiting for this person to pick me up. And then suddenly this announcement goes off on the public address system that says, Sharran Srivatsaa, please pick up a white courtesy phone. So I go pick up this white courtesy phone. It says, hey, the person who was trying to pick you up, their car broke down and they want you to take a bus to Moline, Illinois. And I didn't know where Moline, Illinois was. So I went and I found a bus and I took a bus to Moline, Illinois. Well, after being on the bus for 4 hours and it got dark, I was the last person on the bus. We pulled into a bus depot and the driver comes up to me and says, hey kid, where are you trying to go? And I said, well, I'm trying to go to Moline, Illinois. And he says, well, you're a ways away. You're in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Go, okay. So I'm on completely the other side. So I had no idea where La Crosse, Wisconsin was. And he said, listen, this is what I would do. Why don't you grab your stuff, get inside the terminal, rest for the night, and wake up and start fresh tomorrow. So Tracey, as I grabbed my one bag that I lugged with me across 14,000 miles, and I get out of the bus, out of nowhere, this is 24 hours in the U.S., out of nowhere, somebody jumps out of nowhere with a hoodie and mugs me. So puts a knife in my face and says, hey, give me all your money. And now it's interesting because I haven't even talked to my parents that I've landed yet. They have no idea. The last thing I'm thinking, man, I sent my son and he's in La Crosse, Wisconsin, like bleeding out at a bus depot somewhere. And I really did not want that to happen. And I did not have any money either. My parents had literally given me $100 bill and maybe some loose change, and I was just going to get to college. And so this guy rips my bag open, rummages through it, had some clothes, and he goes, you are the worst person I ever mugged. And I'm like, I don't know what to say to him. So I looked in his eyes. Clearly he was looking for some cash. I said to him, I couldn't even do this today, but I said to him, hey, listen, I know you're not trying to hurt me. I know you're probably trying to look for some cash and you have your own cash flow stuff. I'm trying to get to Moline, Illinois. I have $100. And I showed him my $100 bill. I have no way of getting there otherwise. If I gave you this 100, would you give me 50 back? And he started laughing. So this was me with my futile attempt to negotiate with the mugger. So I gave him this $100 bill, and he pulls out his ratty wallet, Tracey, and he hands me back a 20, and a 5. So he gives me $45 back. He takes the $100, he mutters, and he walks away. And you may say, well, what does this got to do with anything? And I'll tell you what this got to do with. It's got to do with this idea that I just sat down on the asphalt, and I remember thinking this. I go, wow, why did he do that? Why he did that is exactly why everybody does this, which is, I call it this idea of results in advance. Results in advance is essentially saying, Tracey, if I gave you $100, would you give me 50 back? You're like, Sharran, I would do that all day long. And that's exactly what this mugger did. And the biggest lesson that I've learned in this process, the biggest aha moment, is that we build these big goals and have these plans, and we think if we do these things sequentially, we will get that result. Instead, the agent is looking for a result in advance. They're looking for, hey, prove to me that you're a good home for me before I make the commitment. The client is saying, prove to me that you're the right agent for me before I make the commitment. You are saying, hey, prove to me that you're a good guest before I make the commitment. And so I really think hard about this results in advance idea, which is, what can I do before they say yes that convinces them that they have already said yes? And that's why this main aha moment of leading with generosity or deploying goodwill is a core tenet of ours. And it is, can I show up and give everything that I know away? Because then I know that I've laid everything out on the table and I've given every result in advance. And whatever people are getting, they're judging, evaluating me on what I've already given. And they know that they're getting the truth, and it's not some behind the curtain magic. So anytime I'm in a tight spot, I always ask this question, like, what is the result in advance that I can do here? And that's been a good kind of aha filter for me.
So I have so many questions. First of all, I assume you were probably 18 or so since you were going to college, correct?
Yes, it was 16 when that happened. Yes.
16. Okay. So you were 16. How did you end up getting to Moline?
I made the call to my friend after, and I got a ride to Moline after that. Yeah.
And then where did you go to school in Chicago or?
Yeah, I went to, so I played on the pro tennis tour before I came to the US. And once you play pro tennis, you can't play college tennis because you bust your professional eligibility status. So I played tennis at a Division III school called Luther College, which was one of the top tennis schools in the country. And then I went to Vanderbilt for my MBA.
Okay. Wow, that's fascinating. Very interesting story. Obviously, it was a success. So
I still wake up and I think about, for 20 plus years, I never told my parents that story. And the crazy part is they found out on a podcast because I'd finally had so much therapy that I was able to actually talk about it. My therapist told me something, which I hope that everyone has one, because you have someone, a great confidant to talk to. But she said to me, the time in which you are able to laugh at your story, find humor in your story, is the time you have healed. And so whenever I know that I'm ready to kind of talk about it with a smile on my face, the healing process has started.
Yeah, that's amazing. So now my question is like, I can't beat that, but I'm going to ask it anyway. My final question is just like, where do you see the most opportunity for real estate brokers in 2024 and beyond, maybe 2025 as well?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think a lot of opportunity can be seen in evaluating the past. And what I mean by that is not just saying what is going to change, it's saying what is kind of not going to change. Use the Jeff Bezos question, right? And I've been racking my brains with this phrase around, brokerages need to be agent-centric. And there's nothing that makes my hair crawl, nothing. Like, it bothers me so much with this agent centricity thing, because that's like saying, well, a car should have wheels. Like, of course, a car should have wheels. But what is the better idea? So if you're a broker, owner, manager, leader of a big company, I would offer this idea to you, which is, instead of being agent-centric, be entrepreneur-centric. And what that means is you don't have to be agent-centric. An agent in today's world is thinking about the world very differently. What they are looking for, what we believe that they are looking for, is they're looking for Lego blocks. So if, Tracey, you brought your business model to a company like Real, you may use three out of our 20 Lego blocks. But if someone else, Jimmy, came to Real, that person may use 7 different Lego blocks. Our job is to provide these Lego blocks that gives agents, brokers, team leaders a chance of saying, I like these things that are cost prohibitive but for me to build myself. If I can build those, I get to build a unique business on top of an amazing platform. We've taken that approach, which is, can we build Lego blocks that are cost prohibitive for others to build? Like, most people cannot go public. Most people cannot issue equity. Most people cannot build a revenue share program. Most people cannot build all transactions on one app. Most people cannot build their own AI. Like, can we do things that give people a Lego block that they can plug into? And when we do that, you really inspire and kick off this entrepreneurial nature of people. And then they say, wait, Real and Sharran are true partners of mine. And when you get partnership energy, that is significantly better than like hang your license energy. And so we just want to go away from hang your license energy to more partnership energy.
That's great. Well, Sharran, thank you so much for being on the RealTrending podcast. We really appreciate, all that you're doing and all of the insights you provided.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracey.